People of the world, welcome back to Send It Rising. You know, I don't believe in coincidences. Do you know that you're like a planet? You're like a planet floating around the solar system. Sometimes you get sucked into the orbit of other planets, and it is your job to appreciate the beautiful planet that you are now orbiting. Those planets, of course, are people. People have gravity, and so they aren't coincidences that you are having these experiences. It is no coincidence that our guest today has a number of patents under his belt. Have you heard of Facebook, Foursquare, Waze? Ring any bells? Yeah, you know it's true. You know those brands. How many people in marketing and real estate have patents? 0.00001%. So you're in for a real treat. Backstage, we figured out exactly what's going to happen with the real estate market. So if you want to know what the future will hold, we figured it out backstage. We did the calculations. This gentleman, our guest today, is not only an expert in digital marketing, but in real estate. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, the one, the only, Kurt Uhlir.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. I'm very excited for today's conversation.
Yeah, I am too.
So let's dive into real estate digital marketing, which is the basic idea behind today's show. You're a realtor. You're supposed to compete with, I don't know, tens of thousands of other realtors. I feel like many people get into real estate because they don't know what else to do with their life, and they find themselves. It's like no one when they're 6 years old is like, I'm going to sell insurance. Nobody says that. I don't feel like 6 and 10-year-olds talk about being in real estate, and then they end up there, and then they go, I don't really have a frame of reference for doing this. And there's TikTok and SEO, and everyone's selling to them because they're this huge market segment. What are they supposed to do, Kurt?
Well, they should think about marketing themselves and use whatever brokerage they're working with to the best of their capability, but realize like, hey, I don't think a lot of agents approach their business as saying like, look, almost every agent in the US is a 1099 contractor. They may be with Keller Williams, EXP, and NAR says that on average, they're going to change brokerages every 5 years. Now, there are people we meet that, they've been with somebody for 20 years, which is great, but the stats say you change on average every 5 years, which means some people are hopping brokerages every 2. So you might be with Keller Williams today, EXP tomorrow, and Remax next week. And so the key thing there is it's not their business, it's your business. And so all of your marketing and how you think about things need to be based around Kurt Uhlir and Kurt Uhlir as an agent and not as me as part of whatever brokerage I'm in right now.
Interesting. So I used to use the last name of Mark Zuckerberg as a verb. So if you got Zuckerberged, you ended up working for someone else's website.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And we talked about this backstage, and you're against that. You think not sending people to your hub, which should be your website, is a mistake.
Absolutely. I mean, both in the case of real estate specific, most of these brokerages are going to give you a subdomain website, kurtuhlir.kw.com. And same thing for an EXP or somebody else. And what happens when I change brokerages? If that's where my clients are used to going, well, I'm not there anymore. So I'm sending leads. They're used to clicking on a bookmark that sends somebody to a brokerage that I'm not at anymore. But more than that, from a digital hub perspective, it takes time. It takes years to be number 1, number 2, number 3, outranking Zillow in Google. And so whether it's there or I'm on TikTok, I need to be spending years investing in things and then training both the algorithm, but also my audience to go back to where do they find me. In my case, kurtuhlir.com. And so if I'm an agent, hey, no matter what brokerage I'm in or am I on TikTok or something else, that should be my hub. And I should take advantage of any network. We talked a little bit, Google, I kind of view as a network. They have an audience that they funnel to different places based on their algorithm. Well, my audience is used to still ending up finding me in my own website. And that should be kind of the hub that you base all of your marketing around.
So let's say we take your advice, Kurt Uhlir, and we put a picture of you in our living rooms and we bow to it every day and we go, praise Kurt. And we develop this website and we go 2, 3, 4 brokerages in. We still need to be doing what? We need to be blogging. We need to be doing, should we be doing Google ads? What kind of Google ads should we be doing? Facebook retargeting, Instagram, TikTok. What's the plan?
I think it depends on where you're at in your business. I think that what holds back too many agents is one one, they either try to do everything, as any solo entrepreneur, even if you have a small team, you're not able to do everything. Agents just I think too many agents get confused because of, should I be in TikTok? I think, yeah, a lot of agents should be, but it's as simple as an agent yourself, as a solo entrepreneur, two biggest assets you have in digital marketing are your personal brand and your database of contacts that should be up to date. And so you consolidate what should I 30 minutes? What should I do the next 30 days around those two things? Hey, if you don't have the website, you should start working on it. Should we be on TikTok? Well, maybe if you're already there, we can talk. It's like I have an account, but even as a marketer, my wife is a marketer. She's on. So it would be a huge change in my life for me to pull up that app every day. But it wouldn't be a strange thing for pull up Instagram because I'm on that every day. And so you could very easily convince me to start on Instagram. But if you shift me over to TikTok, maybe I should make sure I'm doing the one really well because it still supports my personal brand and funneling people to my database.
So let's dive in a little bit into Reels, which have taken over fundamentally. I've never been as popular online as I have with short form video. And I did it all. I mean, I'm on episode 400, and this is like episode 420 something of this show.
Wow.
And the YouTube shorts will, they'll get 300, 400, 500 views. Instagram regularly 4,000 or 5,000. TikTok, I had 100,000 views on a post. It got 320 hours of watch time. And I'm doing the same thing on all of the Reels, all of them. So it's the same content across. And at this point, I'm not differentiating anything. So I can't stop talking about short form video because it feels like it's taken over.
Yeah, I feel like it has. And it's so easy to I think there's it's a lower barrier for people to feel like you don't have to be perfect to do shorts, and because we're watching Reels. But it's also in the audience. I think as individuals, we should all give people grace, but I think we give a lot more grace just to any of the short form content because we know it's usually somebody just picking up their phone and doing it that way, as opposed to on YouTube. Hey, that's okay. But a lot of times, like, you do expect it to be a little bit more polished, like, hey, I'm at our second property right now. I don't have like my $400 Brio webcam that I would have if I'm at our main house. Like, that's a noticeable thing. So, but if I'm on a reel, nobody cares. So,
yeah, that is interesting because what many people will do is they'll be mega celebrities who are trying to create unpolished videos meticulously.
Right.
So it's like the hair is in a way that it seems like they just got out of bed when they obviously didn't, and this sort of nonsense, because it's actually more popular to be a little unpolished. And there are entrepreneurs in my world who are afraid of being cringy.
Yeah.
My 2 cents is you better be cringy, because guess what? Like, whatever you do at some point is going to make you cringe in the future. Like 90% of the content I put out there, I'm just like, I would much rather put something out there that later I will look back on and go, oof, that's a little rough around the edges, than do nothing at all.
Well, I agree with that. I find also doing shorts and Reels off the cuff often ends up leading to better content. There's a mortgage broker in Roswell, Georgia, I know. He does some polished videos, but what's the most interesting content that I watch is even before Reels kind of started, he just do Facebook Lives and things, was he will leave a meeting with a client and that has an interesting topic, an interesting problem that's come up, and he'll pop out his phone and he'll record that. And I find myself 15 minutes later listening to him as he's closing down, being like, at some level, 15 minutes of my life I almost wasted, but he got 15 minutes of my time. And he gets so many referrals from me because he tells stories like, example, he left, I've done a fair number of angel investment deals over the years. He left a meeting with somebody where this husband and wife had been writing $25,000, $50,000 angel investment deals. And he wrote one to a medical marijuana company, legitimate business in Colorado or California. But the bank, because they go through more federal restrictions, he was in a different risk category. They were having problems, even though, you have to have some money to be making $50,000 as investments you're using to get back. So good profile, but because he had invested one of those checks in a company's in risky business, they were having problems. And I think they were on their third or fourth bank trying to get an underwriting for a second or third property they were trying to buy. Whoa, like I never thought, and coached it, no confidential information, as did you know, depending on where you invest and how you invest, that might be from buying your next house or buying something else? No, I never would have thought about it. But he left the meeting. It was a fresh topic. It was clearly off the cuff. And he walked me through the story that had a little bit of valuable information. Man, at this point, I've probably told that story for that one alone on 20 podcasts at this point. And I have other examples from him as well, like that. And it's good content that if he sat down, I think, and planned out what he was going to say and waited to next day to do it, as opposed to shooting out today, like the chance that he's not going to put out the content is going to go up by 90%. So instead, like, how many people have I referred to him because he just popped out his phone and took 15 minutes to do a quick little reel?
That's beautiful.
And anybody can do that.
That's absolutely right. And there's this people back in the day, were afraid of public speaking. They're still terrified of that. And this is just modern digital public speaking. And so it's that same fear. And for some people, it's even worse because looking into a camera is really weird if you're not used to it. If you're not used to just staring at a phone and like talking to the phone, it can be a little bit awkward. But I've been saying for years, if you're a business owner, there's a good chance that no one else is going to be as good at it as you are. No one is going to be in that meeting. And if you hire an agency like Send It Rising, we can't produce that. It's never going to happen. I can't produce the content that Kurt just described because I'm not at the meeting. But you give us something to work with, and then all of a sudden, we can get some traction. Like, we want you to be the face of your business.
Absolutely. Well, and by just pulling out your phone and starting to do those recordings, two things end up happening. Is one, you just get better at over time as you do these videos yourself. Like, I'm a much better podcast guest today than I was 2 years ago. And I'm going to look back at how, at even this conversation, which I feel is very conversational. I'm going to look back in 2 years from now and be like, oh my gosh, like, can we redo that podcast? Because you get better the more of them that you do. But the other thing that happens is, like, hey, there's a perseverance muscle that we get by doing anything repeatedly. Well, we also all have the thing that it's like, if you're trying to be successful, if you're trying to build people online, like, there's a lot of that doesn't come across as authentic. And the people that I find that really build big audiences, they develop the muscle that says, I don't care. Like, I don't care really about your criticism. Because, like, at this point, like, I'm sure from this, there will be somebody that will post some rant about something that Kurt said on your podcast. Well, I know that there might be something truthful in there, and I could learn from that. The other side is I also grow from that and go, God, how much grace should I have towards that person? Because if they took 5 minutes out of their life after listening to something and to go and rant, like, I feel bad for them at this point, because, like, there could be legitimacy and I should be open to that myself, but probably there's something in their life that's going on that feels like they need to exude that toxicity. And instead of, like, coming at them with any sort of, like, pushback, I just feel like I feel sorry and a little graciousness for them, because I've been there at parts of my life too. And, like, you took time out of your valuable life to complain about something Kurt said. Man, don't rant on that. Like, the best thing I can do is say, I don't care about the toxicity. I want to just love on you.
Look, I love negative comments because they release a chemical cocktail in my head, which is fight or flight. They do. And I see them and I get either angry or I'm like, ugh. And a part of me as a digital agency owner who's out there always thinks like, oh, like, what could they do? They could do something. They could harm my reputation in some way. They could this or that. But the more numb I get to them, the more I just don't care. And I had a great guest on my show the other day who said boredom precedes mastery. And because I've been doing reels now for a long time and I'm bored. I'm over it. It's a chore. It's like I have to find some time during the day to do it. Ugh. But I'm also getting more views than I ever have, but I'm still bored. Right. And so what's happened is the nature of the content has changed. Because I'm not looking up Facebook, what the newest Facebook thing that happened. I'm telling people that I don't believe in contracts, for example. And that's something I've felt in my soul for years and years and years as a digital marketing agency. That's stupid to force clients to sign 6-month contracts. Where month to month, I've always been, I'll hop on my soapbox. That's what I believe. If a plumber showed up to my house and was like, oh, sign this contract before I do the work, I'd be like, I'm not hiring you. I'm going with someone else. Dentist, same thing. So I did that the people resonate with that. They're like, oh yeah, good point. But it comes from a place of boredom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something that I got from what you just said too, is like, when I look at small business owners, medium business owners that have grown, one of the things that I think like marketing agencies like yours helps the most with is, like, you're right. A real estate agent, they're the only one that can really do these reels and the content themselves. And even a lot of the blog content, or even a lot of the deep SEO work. Like, as an agent, like, you should have community pages for all these neighborhoods, all the cities, property types in your area. Like, I can engage an SEO expert agency to help do that. But the best content is when I take out my voice note on my phone and I do a 3 to 5 minute description of this neighborhood and I send it to you guys for you to take what I know, and then you guys can do what you do best on it. But on Reels, like, one of the things that I ask people, like, how did you go from, some people have figured it out themselves, some are very diligent going through comments. And one of the things I keep hearing consistently is, hey, I went to a marketing agency and part of what I paid them for was to coach me and critique me on my content as I put out. Because, hey, you'll see things that me as an agent, or me as a real estate agent, or me as another marketing agency, you're going to see things that I see myself, and that feedback is useful, it's valuable to me, and better, faster, by actually engaging somebody like you and say, hey, I need you to be my drill sergeant. Tell me when I do good, but shred me when there's stuff I can do better.
Oh, you know what? That's very true. And I'm a hypocrite because I don't do that and should. Literally, we have an event today at noon with Shali, who's an employee of mine who has almost 2 million likes on TikTok for her personal travel brand. She hikes with cats. It's at Shali Wanders. She's hiked more mountains than I have, cells in my body, it feels like, which would be trillions, which is a ridiculous statement. That's why it's a joke. And anyway, so at noon, she's doing this remote workshop, and we're in that space. So we are training. We trained Marcus Berg, who's a personal injury attorney, client of ours, and he had a post go viral. So Kurt's right. I mean, I know you don't want to hear that, and I know you think you can do it yourself, and you can. But you take someone who's gotten 2 million likes on TikTok, and they take a look at your content, and you spend a couple $100 for them to hold your hand for, a session or two. And before you know it, it's going to be very different. It's like, you don't think like Major League Baseball players have hitting coaches, pitchers have pitching coaches. They've got coaches for everything, and coaches for what they put in their body, for food, for rest. They've sleep coaches. They've got, you know what I mean? They just lean on these experts for everything.
Well, and with that, the one tip I'll give to people when they're looking for a coach, don't look for just the person that has 2 million likes and that got that from 1 or 2 videos, because those are easy, that those happen. It's still hard, but it's like, hey, I'm never going to go get a pitching coach just from somebody who's thrown 3 good curveballs in their life. No, I want somebody who, this is what they've either coached for 15 years, or they were successful as a player for a decade themselves. It's the same thing. Is I either want to see somebody with consistent growth, or somebody that can say, hey, the clients I've worked with consistently and their growth has happened. Some of those are going to have those big spikes that happen, but there are a lot of people that had 1 or 2 really good reels, and now they're the guru that's out there. I'm like, you should run from that person. But man, somebody that's been consistently doing the hiking themselves, talking about it, they've had that growth to get there. That's the person you engage.
Yeah, for sure. I want to pivot the conversation to something you were talking about backstage, which was, you expressed, I don't know what the word is to describe it, but an emotion about pay-per-click, and how you think that it's not necessarily the best move moving forward into a recession for real estate agents. Am I paraphrasing you inaccurately?
Well, yes and no. I love pay-per-click when I have the budget for it to invest, but I would say most agents don't. There's some level of pay-per-click, especially when we're talking about remarketing, that I think everybody should have something associated with. The algorithm shifts so much for Facebook, TikTok, Google. You should make sure you're using some remarketing to push content back to people. But when things start to slow down, like this is when I think everybody, are they actually going to slow down in real estate? I don't know, because supply is so low. I think we're going to see lower transactions, but I think the upper 15% of agents, they're not going to see their businesses actually slow down because they haven't figured it out. But if I'm one of those people, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to pull out their budget for what are recurring expenses and look at what should go away or be shrunk. And one of those things that often should be shrunk, I find now, is pay-per-click. Hey, when the number of transactions are going to go down, I mean, look back at almost any industry. I'm going to say you should start taking a percentage. You might have to, if you have to just pull back your budget, pull it back. But if you could still keep investing, you should pull back from pay-per-click now, and you should start pushing more of that towards organic growth because of what that's going to do from a compound growth over time. And if things do really slow down and you're looking at, and we're 12 months out, you're going to want to look back to today and say, I'm so glad I started investing in SEO or doing some reels back in July of 2022.
That's always the answer to organic growth, though. You know what I mean? Don't you feel like you could always go back and be like, a year ago, I should have done more organic?
It is, but when things slow down, the price, you look back and the price of pay-per-click in almost every industry skyrockets. So if you're paying $10 or $200 for a lead right now, that could 10x the cost in a year. So what does your business look like when the pay-per-click goes drastically high? If we actually go into a recession and or the housing market follows through, because like, hey, the Georgia real estate market, I don't think personally is going to decrease from value. If I was looking at in Illinois, yeah, like we've been issues there already. You may continue to decrease. Well, what do you think the cost of per lead is going to be? You have the same number of agents in 12 months. Yeah, but most of those agents are going to think they can just dump a little bit more money, not realizing at some point that's a flywheel they just can't keep up with. But organic, like most agents just aren't going to do it, either themselves or engage somebody to do it for them.
You know, on the organic front for real estate agents, one of the realtors I've been following for many years now is Brian Lebo. He's a Las Vegas real estate agent, and he does a really well done monthly update, real estate update. And I know that's a pretty cliche sort of thing to do as a real estate agent. I feel like you're certainly not inventing something new. Many folks do that. Okay, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the this. Let's look at the that. As a real estate investor myself, he's just done a good job. He's just earned my loyalty over the years, and he consistently gets 5, 6, 7,000 views on these things, 300, 400 likes. And that amounts to a lot of money for that guy. I mean, you do not need big numbers on YouTube to
There's nothing wrong
have
with
a
doing,
solid
there's
network.
nothing wrong with doing the cliche of kind of updates. I think what too many agents fall into is like they're consistent and you're just focused on that. But like what a lot of agents do is they focus on content of interest to somebody that's actively buying and selling. And the problem is the numbers say, hey, if you're in a market where people move houses every 5 years and you're only focused on active buyers and sellers, then that's maybe 20% of your total client base today. If it's every 10 years, we're talking about 10% of your basis. And so what content do you have content that would be of interest to your client, your sphere of influence, your local market, for the 90% of people that aren't going to buy a home for the next 9 years, that either be there for them when they're ready to buy or sell, but you at least want their referral in 4 years. And so market updates are actually good because it touches a little both of those. But it's like too many agents I find on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. Hey, here's an open house. Hey, here's a closing. Somebody holding a for sale sign, or just sold sign. Great. If I'm not actively buying or selling, I just changed channels. I clicked away. On the other hand, you're telling me about, hey, you just took to encourage your client to not drop 20 grand in a new bathroom update because of what's going on in the market. Now, even if I'm not actively buying or selling, that's an interesting topic for me.
No, I like that a lot. I'm glad that you came up with an example, because the entire time you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, so, and what, right? Like what else am I supposed to do? Right. I mean, I'm a realtor, I'm buying and selling homes, but I like that example of, hey, homeowner, I know you're not necessarily buying or selling at this point. You don't even say that. That's just inferred.
Oh, yeah.
But I might hit the pause button on the this or the that because of the interest rate, because you become more of an economist ultimately.
Oh, yeah. Well, and a lot of times you're right. People need examples. I mean, I have a free download at showcaseidx.com with more than 300 pieces, like literally like infographics and videos for agents. It's probably about maybe 70% not active buying and selling kind of content, but still real estate, and 20 to 30% for people that are actively buying and selling. That literally is just free for people to download. It's got a small little Showcase IDX watermark on it, but it's at least worth people going and looking at. And you can see most of the content without even giving us an email address, because it gives ideas. You could just look at the 100 infographics that are on that main blog article and never enter an email address and just go, I'm going to do one of these as a topic every day for a reel. And now that's 3.5 months of content for people.
It's too much. It's too much. It's too overwhelming. That this is the problem with marketing and SEO is that the work never stops. And we're trained as children to get an assignment, complete the assignment, turn it in, receive a grade for that assignment. And there are some people that are like, give me the extra credit. Like we know those types, those personality types. But even then, you have a finite amount of work and it is what it is, and that's it. And then all of a sudden we get into the quote real world, and it's like, okay, you just completed the blog, you can write 1,000 more or 10,000 more or 100.
Right.
You cannot sleep tonight and just produce like you can just continue. Like, oh, have you considered idea pins on Pinterest? Well, you should be doing, you could differentiate
Right.
your TikTok reel from your Instagram. Have you considered Facebook ads? You targeted that demographic. Do you want to target another one? And you're just like,
Who has time
what
for that?
what am I supposed to do? This is insane. That's why people hire agencies. They're like, I do not want to even think about this insanity.
Well, yeah, and you're right. I mean, bringing in agencies are great for that, but also like it's also not realizing there are countless articles that say you cannot put out the same content on every social channel or every reel. But you just mentioned before, like, hey, you put out the same content in all of them, and a lot of times, and that's great. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm like, would I rather have differentiated content on Instagram versus LinkedIn versus Facebook or Pinterest? Yes. Do I have time for that? No. And so sometimes when if I'm scheduling something, because I believe in both doing things live and scheduling. I can outsource scheduling for sure. Well, that allows me to say, this is more business content. Don't put it here, put it on LinkedIn. But as far as like, doing what you can, it's the consistency that matters more than anything. And people, I especially in real estate, but almost they hear everybody saying like, you need to do all these things, and they don't come back to those two things I mentioned earlier. It's your personal brand, and which could be your business brand, but you're the face of it, to what you said, and your contact database is are the things that I could do next going to support those two things. And if I can't have a tangible yes, I shouldn't go and do it. Am I going to get enough value to shoot a second reel on TikTok versus what I did for Instagram? If not, I should just hit upload this video.
Yeah.
But even then, what I love about agencies are you guys are the best at guiding people through a process, and consistently both been on the agency side, the consultant side, just seeing on the back end more of a service provider for technology, being see tens of thousands of agent businesses. Standard operating procedures is what help people grow. And those that don't figure that out themselves do not grow because there's consistency in it. And often the best value I see from people, there is a going to an agency because I can hand off work that maybe I shouldn't have been doing. But the good agencies force me into an SOP, a standard operating procedure that's repeatable. And so maybe it's that, Kurt, I need to do this every day at 9:30 a.m. Other cases, it's, can you just take 2 days this month and batch content for the next quarter?
Yeah.
And then hand it off to you guys, and you guys make it look consistent.
Yeah. Well, there's some truth to that. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all know the drill. YouTube.com/Send It Rising for most of the lives. We simulcast on 5 platforms. We are on 16 podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, and all the other ones that you normally go to. Thank you for swinging by the show today. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Kurt. The nuggets that I picked up, at least, are that, for each individual real estate agent switching brokerages, do what he said. There's 2 pieces of the puzzle. You got your personal brand. And so you need to be focusing on, your website. Landing pages on brokerages it's not that they're so stupid. If I'm a brokerage, I get it. You create a landing page for your real estate agent. I'm not saying that they're being evil or there's some sort of if they prevent you from having your own website, that's different. I think a brokerage that would stop you from building your personal brand is misguided. I think that's not smart on their behalf. But anyway, build that personal brand. TikTok might be MySpace, right? We don't know what's going, when it's going, how it's going, what's going to be the dominant player, what demographics are going to be playing at the certain times. There's different geographies for all of these different things. My 2 cents is that you should be doing reels. I don't think there's a decent reason as to why you should not be on TikTok, Facebook Reels, and Instagram Reels. Do the same thing on all of them. See which one hits. Start getting some views. And to Kurt's point, you have to get better at it because you will suck. Your first 50 reels will probably be crappy, but so what? Who cares? That you have to get over yourself. You have to get over the fact that you know you say like too much, or that you had the booger. I've had reels, Kurt, where people only talk about a booger in my nose. Like it's a thing, to the where I now have to go check to see if I've got a booger before I create these reels, because 20 of the 50 comments will be like, yo, bro, check the booger and the whatever. I'm like, seriously? But if they're taking the time to comment and I'm getting 10,000 views on that,
Right.
then I'm happy for the booger.
And you've got to get through those first 50. There's no way to get through the first 50 except for doing them. And so you learn things like that, and how you talk, and, you know, do I need to have a note that says slow down? Yeah, I generally actually do. I like below my webcam, I have a note I put up that says slow down. Why? Because even when I haven't had caffeine, I sound like I've had 17 cups of caffeine. And so
You know what? I say rip that note up and burn it, and just do you, Kurt. You do you. You be nice and fast. Ben Shapiro talks like his voice is a machine gun, and he's super popular on like the conservative side. So I don't change for anybody, Kurt. Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta go. I got stuff I gotta do. Kurt, why don't you tell the fine folks where to find you?
KurtUhlir.com. I practice what I preach. You can go to KurtUhlir.com, and it'll splinter you off to anything else.
KurtUhlir. Again, KurtUhlir. The jingle goes UHLIR. That's for free, Kurt. My gift to you for that. That's a $10,000 jingle right there. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for swinging by the show. We'll see y'all next time.